Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the Voice of Many podcast with your host, Yolanda, and co host, Vanessa. This evening, we are bringing to you a lady that has had the opportunity to embrace world like many of us only wished that we could, but we haven't quite had the possibility. She has had the opportunity to be a coach. She's a wife. She's a mother. She's a minister. But most of all, she's just like us. And that being said, she has so much to bring to us, so much knowledge, so much experience. Being a wife of 26 years of blissful marriage, she is going to highlight us on some relationship topics. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Miss Veronica Williams. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's such an honor.
Thank you for taking out the time. And if you will give a brief snippet about your career and what you're able to bring to us today.
Oh, okay. I am, as you said, a wife, a mother. I am a master certified life coach specializing in relationships as well as a retired military spouse. My husband served in the Army for about 21 years. I'm a mother of three. And happen to have out of the three are twins. They're fraternal, a boy and a girl. Um, I enjoy talking to people and sharing helpful tools to navigate through life. And this is a perfect opportunity to do so on your podcast.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. And to get things going, first question I would like to ask you is that when it comes to a relationship, what does love have to do with keeping the marriage happy?
Mm. Well, from a Christian standpoint, love has a lot to do with the foundation of the relationship. Let's say that first. But secondly, um, we all have various beliefs in life. And so it's great to meet someone that has a common background, common beliefs, common values, and then you will begin the discussion to start a relationship. A lot of times, from my perspective, what happened why I am still married is that I became my husband's friend before I became his wife. And um, being his friend first allowed us to talk and take down any guards. We were able to be authentic. We were able to trust one another. We were able to be honest. And we felt that in sharing what we've gone through, our such as our families' backgrounds, where we stand with that, and where we were in our adult life. We happened to get married a little later in life, but at the same time, we were both sold out in our faith, which happens to be Christians. So a lot of the things that couples would do, premarital promiscuity, premarital sex, let's just say that, we didn't have that opportunity because of where we stood in our faith with God. We didn't want to disappoint him. And if we felt eventually as he was growing the relationship from friendship to relationship, in terms of looking at it to be a marriage, we didn't want to jeopardize the blessings that come along with waiting. And that's what helped us. Love is really the foundation, for Christ first loved us, right?
Right.
Um, and so we have to learn, I think we use love loosely. And I think for people that are dating, people are always saying, I love you, but do you really love me? Do you really know the depths of my heart? Um, because it's when my, my heart skip a beat when I'm not in your presence. um, so I think hopefully um, with that, love does have a lot to do with the relationship, in terms of, if you love someone, you're willing to do anything for them. You're willing to make the sacrifices that it takes in being in a relationship, and you're willing to make sure that that individual is happy. But as I was mentioning, from a Christian standpoint, I don't know that marriage necessarily is for us to always be happy, because life happens. But I do believe in marriage, it is the first way that we can learn to be holy.
Mm. Good. It's very good. It's very good.
Can you also explain how men and women see things a little bit differently? Because sometimes, in a relationship, you're like, well, why can't you see it from my point of view? Or why can't you understand me? So can you at least explain to our viewers a little bit about that?
Yes, before I explain it, I'm going to tell you the way that I learned it is from a great author, Dr. Eckeridge. And his book is called Love and Respect:
Mm.
What Men Desperately Need and What Women Want. And what men desperately need is love. I mean, is respect. And women want love.
Mhm.
And so when a woman is not feeling love, she does not respect her husband.
Mm.
And when he does not feel he's getting respected, he cannot love her back. And so it becomes, he calls it a crazy cycle. We go through all this stuff, just like in what you explained. We go through, why can't you see it, my perspective? Because we don't take time to sit and listen, to be heard, or, listen to understand, and not just to be heard. Listen to mutually understand, mutually be empathetic to each other's situation that you're discussing. How Dr. Eckeridge describes it in his book is how men and women see things differently. He said that women see things from pink lenses, and men see things from blue lenses. And then he gave this example. If a woman goes in her closet to get something to wear, she goes in and she may not find what she's looking for. So she comes out and she says, I have nothing to wear. If a man goes into his closet looking to wear something, and he goes in and he comes out and he said, I have nothing to wear. From the man's perspective, he has nothing to wear means all of his stuff is dirty. That's why he has nothing to wear. From a woman's perspective, she goes in, she has nothing new to wear. Women, that's just really how we are. If it's not something that we snuck in our closet with a price tag on it, we don't really want to wear it because we wore it last week, right? So we can just say, I don't have nothing new. So then that's why we become shopaholics. But that there's discipline there, right?
That's right. That's right.
So let's not just, so from that perspective, we really do see things differently. And so it takes sitting down, conversating, and making sure you heard what you heard. One of the things that I learned from that book that I even use today with my husband is that when we're talking about something, and it may have been a little tense, when we first brought it up, and we thought we settled it, but somehow I just didn't feel like it was settled, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll say, honey, I want us to discuss something, but it's not to get us in a crazy cycle. It's something that we talked about before, but I'm not really feeling settled with the response I got. So can we talk about it? Mm-hmm. So see, it's again how you say it. I didn't say, honey, let's talk. Because the minute you say, let's talk,
Oh yeah, they put up a wall.
we get defensive. We already take it all the way to the moon, you know, because we like, oh, and then we're standing our stance to guard to fight back, you know. But if you say it a certain way, so learning how to switch your language, to be respectful, to be soft, you know. And one thing about when discussing situations with your spouse, or even if you're in a dating situation, for women, don't become historical. And what that means is, don't bring in something that you guys already said, I forgive you for. We are 5 years ago, 2 weeks ago. We tend to bring in situations that really don't have anything to do with what we're currently doing, but it's our dagger to make the wound a little bit you know,
Deeper.
a little bit deeper, right? But it only causes friction. So we should really be in relationships and in our marriages, realizing that we're not married to our enemy. We're married to the man that, if you're a Christian, that God put you together. You know, a lot of us say, oh yeah, God put us together. And then a month later, you know, oh, I don't love him no more. I don't love her no more. Oh, I can't stand her. She get on my nerve. I can't be in a room with her. The pandemic hit. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna have to find another way to go work. I don't want to. I can't imagine being home with her all day. Work was my outlet, you know. So where is all that coming from? And so that's why it takes time to really spend time with each other. The more you spend time with someone, you realize and you get a epiphany, whether you really like them or you really don't, whether it's not. We are, in our human minds, we're so quick to say love so fast, and to hop into a relationship before we've been healed from the last relationship. Sometimes we need some space in there. They call it the rebound. When we're on the rebound, we're willing to accept anything and everything. But when you take time out and work on self and determine what is it that I like, what role did I play in the last relationship instead of blaming the other individual, then we can kind of get into some healthy relationships and understand each other. Everything in a marriage or in a relationship does not have to turn into a fight or argument. We can have some healthy conversations, and it all deals with our tone. It all deals with how we say it. And most importantly, a good key for women and for men is the timing right. Don't grab at him or her as soon as they walk in the door. Let them have some time to wind down, because we all need to wind down. You know, we can set a time, like, you know, after dinner, let's spend some time, you know, on the couch, or, you know, outside of the bedroom. A lot of times, don't have all of your pressure talks in the bed. You know, it may make for some good makeup time, but a lot of times we really want to separate what our bedroom is used for and what conversations outside of the bedroom are for. Because we mix both of them, we get all entangled in stuff that don't even need to be. And then we, you know, I always say this to a lot of the couples. I mean, I know I'm a minister and everything, but I'm also human. And I say, you can have more yeses at night when you learn to talk to me outside of the bedroom. You know, the intimacy piece is, it's not always the intimacy, and the difference between intimacy is not sex. Intimacy is conversation. It's cuddling. It's hand holding. It's a meeting of the minds, and where you are, where you want to be, talking about all those things and really finding common ground is where you get that intimacy. Now, the sex piece, which in a Christian marriage, it glorifies God. So if you're not married to a Christian or you're fornicating, and fornicating means that you're having sex without being married to someone, that's really not glorifying God. But when you have a marriage that you know is truly a holy hookup from God, when you all come together, it's going to be peaceful. It's going to be you're going to be connected, and it is going to be glorifying God. And it doesn't take away, oh, you two holier than thou or anything like that. God created that. That's how Adam received his bride through Eve, because God had found that, I've made all these animals and I gave them all names and I created them all by pairs. But hey, this man over here, he don't have anyone. So he put Adam to sleep and he took a rib and he created woman, right? And so that's what he is supposed to do. So we need to, in our marriages, cherish each other and realize how we talk to one another and how we share with one another in discussions and anything that we go through, is that I don't want to say anything out of line because that's God's son.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say anything disrespectful. That's not really what I really want to say because that's God's daughter.
Mhm.
For most people, they don't get to ask a father for their daughter's hand
Right.
and know the real meaning behind asking your father for their daughter's hand. Now I'm asking to be to love her, to honor her, just as you did as dad, but I'm going to do it from a husband's perspective. Um, and so when you don't have that, God is your father, and you're allowing, if someone says they want to marry you, you want to make sure that this is really a God sent thing. You want to talk to people of wisdom. You want um don't run from people that have healthy wisdom for you. Some really good insight, because sometimes we don't always, when we're in relationships, we don't always see the red flags. And when someone brings a red flag up to us, we shouldn't get so offensive that they don't want me to be with him. And it's not even that, when my husband and I do premarital counseling, there's a section in one of the books that talk about red flags and does your spouse, or do you have the free will to speak your opinion without, can you do it freely?
Mhm.
Can you, are you able to share your opinions, your thoughts? Not everyone do that. So you have to make sure that you are keen in on red flags. And one thing, red flags is one of the two people abusive? You know, is um, is this a good time? Are we financially ready? You know, um, are we stable with our job? Are we really able to really finance a family when we consider having children? Red flags don't mean don't get married. Red flags mean caution and make a plan
Mm.
to get through those issues. Even if you have some things that are different, you have differences and you can't work them out, you have to seek out either a life coach, uh, or either marriage counseling when it's really deep into something you're bringing in from your childhood. You need to talk to someone to get those things run. And for African Americans, it is not a problem to talk to someone that looks like us. Um, we need to talk it out because we are in our head too much. And when we know what happens when we lean on our own head, that's why we got so much mental illness going on, because we're keeping it in and we can't decipher it.
Okay.
But if we talk to someone else, they may be empathetic enough to help you decipher it and say, it don't really look like that.
Dr.
Chill
Lewis,
out.
I want to ask you a question as well when you're talking about making sure you're making the right decision. Unity. I wanted to ask you about, and I know you probably came up against this several times in your marriage counseling, is when your couple is not equally yoked. Can you go into that a little bit? How that
When it,
affects the marriage, the relationship?
yeah, because what happens when you're not equally yoked, you're not even of the same mindset. You don't have the same values, and you don't have the same goals. And you may have some of the same goals, like you both are working, you both are great, making some money or whatever, but you're not spiritually connected. You're not emotionally connected. And the spiritual piece is the biggest piece about being unequally yoked. And so you need to have someone that believes in your same God, that believes in the way that he operates, um, and how that will tie in to how you all will move forward in your lives. Um, Even if you do get married to someone that is unequally yoked, um, live a life before them, as the Bible tells us that for a woman, if you have a husband who is unsaved, don't browbeat him, don't hold it on him. You live it before him, because that is what's going to save him. Or, if you don't talk about your church, love your church, talk about the goodness of God, talk about how your church is really thriving and allowing you to grow. Because what people see is what draws them.
Yes.
And if you're showing hypocrisy in one way, I love God, and then you're coming home and you're acting a whole different way,
Mm-hmm.
how, God can bless a mess, but when you really making a mess, he sometimes you have to go through some things. And how often do we hear people say, oh, we never start out the way that we are.
Right.
But I think it's very key to have someone who has the same values and the same faith as you, because you don't want to create more issues there. There's a whole lot of more things that can divulge or come out from that. How we raise our children. I'm of one faith, whatever. Do we want to mix that in? And there are couples that do it, but there's only one God. You know, there's only, and I just say from whatever faith. You don't want them to have dual. You can't serve two gods. You have to serve one. So we have to make sure that we are aligned with what God wants with us. That's what it is. It's all about being in alignment. We're so out of tune in our own thinking and our own secular values that we forget that God said we're of the world. We're in the world, but not of the world. So then that means that I have to live a different lifestyle. I can't. So if I'm a Christian, if I'm a single Christian and I meet someone who is not a Christian and who likes to have sex before marriage,
Mm.
do you date that person? I think you need to take a pause and say, is this where I want? Because now your faith is on the line. Now it's easy for non-believers to draw a Christian into their sin than it is for a Christian to draw them into their holiness. And that's when the rubber meets the road between men and women. Like, how much do you really love God over this? How much do you really trust him to say, you know what, God, he's looking mighty fine, but I know he's into something I'm not into. I just ask that you just give me the strength to just walk away.
That's true. True.
I've been there. We all been single.
Yeah.
And I've met people where people been so fine, but I was so happy when I met him. He was so fine. I had just had a Bible study that the pastor said, ladies, if you meet somebody that looks like that, you better go in a corner and ask God, Lord, is this you or is this Satan trying to get me? you know, because you could be preyed upon also as Christians. So you have to be
Yes.
careful. And preyed upon means prey. You know, you can be prey to people that's who they want. You know, just to say that I conquered it, I accomplished it. She wasn't as holy or he wasn't as holy as I thought he was. Don't ever let people put you in a trick bag to question your faith. Stand firm and know that whatever you get yourself in, God is always making a way out.
Yes,
You
yes.
know,
Yeah. Right.
So you were mentioning Bible studies, and I know that you have been doing and facilitating couples Bible studies for the past 7 years. What did you learn from doing that?
I learned, and which has drawn me into my passion, is that um, when you don't have God in the equation of marriage, uh, that's when all this other stuff comes in. Dishonesty, not being authentic, not being who you really are, having misconceptions or misthoughts about the individual. Um, I learned that but then on the good thing, what I learned is that when you put God in the equation, he can really work it out. That's what I learned. I learned that when we both mutually agree to love and respect each other, and when we mutually agree to allow Christ to be in the center of our marriage, and that we allow him to direct us in the path that we should take in our marriage, he can work it out no matter what you've been through, 20 years worth. But when you decide to say yes to God into my marriage, it's amazing as to what he can do. That's what I learned, because every couple was leaders in my church, but not all of them were having healthy marriages. And I tell you, I saw some miraculous things by the 12th week. And I took note. God kept having me take note. When they walked in, it was a heavy burden. They didn't really want to sit by each other. They were scooting their chair. You know, you could tell there was some trouble at the well. And then by the 12th week, you could see that they got a little closer because God was coming in. You know, when the couple that was scooting their chair away, like, don't touch me, they all of a sudden was scooting their, like, oh, baby, touch me. And then not only that, he began to learn how to touch her hair. And I'm like, God said, look at all of that. Look at all of that. And that 12th week, I had to mention it. And I called them all out. I said, look, this is what can happen. I said, when you two came, you weren't even sitting by each other, but look at you now. You're all up on top of each other like you're at home. You didn't want to touch her, but look at you. I see you rubbing her head and embracing it. Little things. I see you pulling out her chair. You didn't just have her come in and sit down. I saw when we left that you opened up her car door instead of just letting her open the door. Because sometimes we forget all those little things that might have been turn-ons for us. And we get married and we just figure like it's okay.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to women in relationships on, we get so into our relationship, we get so into our children, we get so into our jobs. What words of wisdom can you give us when it comes to seeking our purpose, so that we don't forget what our purpose truly is?
Yes, I totally understand. I think we need to find balance. And we need to make sure that when we're so into our spouses, that we don't make them our God. When we don't get closer to God and we allow them to get there. Even as a parent, when we're so into the children come and we forget about there was a husband. He's a part of why the children are here, and we push him aside. I would say, and then women, I would say for women to don't lose your voice. A lot of women that I've talked to feel that they've lost their voice in their marriages, that they were not valued, meaning that their opinions didn't matter, and that whatever my husband says goes. There's a difference of whatever my husband says goes. It's two people in the marriage and they both have thoughts and opinions about the decisions. So we both have to mutually make decisions. Now, whether I decide to agree, I need to agree, but we don't keep count. You made the decision last time, now it's my time. I'm tired of keep going your way. That's called, we have to let go. My husband always said we have to divorce ourselves when we get married, because we all about I, my way or the highway. But we need to say, instead of I, we need to change our language. It's us, it's we. Let me check with my spouse, because I'm not sure what's on his agenda. Sometimes as spouses, we wean out the other spouse from our plans, and we have to make sure that they're included. We have to make sure that we are checking in from time to time. It goes along with the 5 love languages. What's your love language? Some people like to text. That's okay. I like to hear from you. Some people like letters. Some like gifts. Some people are touch people. What is your love language? Sit down with your spouse and find out what your love language is. You didn't call me today. Well, did he know that you like phone calls versus text?
Okay.
I like gifts. He didn't get me no flowers today. Well, baby, I thought just having me was enough. Was it? With Valentine's Day being yesterday, right? But so, and also, don't make it so tense in the relationship. Breathe, have fun. Sometimes how we say things makes the spouse laugh before they respond. And don't pressure someone into answering if they're not ready to answer yet. But hold them accountable to answer it as time goes on. So I hope I answered that pretty well for what you.
Yes, you did. You did. It is so important that we remember those things. I mean, every area that you hit on is so true, and especially whenever you're a only child or you have been single for so long, it's hard in a relationship and in a marriage. Just remember, hey, it's not just me anymore, and it makes it real hard, trying to get readjusted back to us, a we, So that was very good.
And that comes along with the dating phase, learning how to be a we and a us. I hear so many women and so many couples say, well, he changed after we got married. We used to do everything together, and now we married. He don't never want to be at home. He's always gone. Well, what was the red flag in the dating phase? Did he do that before, but you just thought it was okay and he'll be back in a minute? I mean, so those little things, you got to watch out. Did he really change, or did you just accept those things? We don't really change. Whatever we allow in the dating phase, it comes in the marriage. So you have to have standards. You have to have values. You have to be able to communicate what those standards and what those values are. And don't just say them, live them. Because if you don't ever, the best way to show someone how you feel valued or that you're firm in your beliefs is to show them. Because actions speak louder than words. We have to make sure we do that. And we have to make sure that we spend time with one another. And how do we do that? We find a night, the pandemic is still on in many states or whatever, but how about, can I just make my living room? Can I throw a blanket down? Pull out the summer picnic basket, put some grapes, some apple cider, a little cheese and crackers. And how about, honey, this is our dinner tonight. Just in the living room. How about that? Date night. Simple, free, no money spending. And what we do about that is that's how we keep the flame burning.
Mm-hmm.
How about cards in the car? How about cards under the pillow? How about just a little something of you? Like, take a little, I tell you, my husband has gone back to work for a couple of days, a week. And just a few weeks ago, I purchased a card. I put my perfume on it and I stuck it in his briefcase. I knew he had already packed his computer and everything. He said that when he got to work, he was like, I thought I left B at home. I thought I left her at home. He said, honey, it was so nice. I got the card out and the words, it was just so wonderful. He said, I left the card in my office at work so that when I go back in a couple of days or next week, I still have that scent there. He said, oh, that meant so much to me. We forget about cards. We forget about blank cards and just writing our own poem. Why pay somebody? Just write what you want, honey. So just keep the flame burning. It's so many simple ways to keep the flame burning.
Yes.
It's so many ways to make sure that we let the other spouse know that it's not always about the kids, because after the kids are gone, when they graduate, and for those that go away to school, how about when you become empty nesters? So many couples get divorces when their kids get older because they've lost touch with who each other is, and they don't take the time to rekindle that relationship. And so you want to plan now for the empty nesting, that you'll be glad the kids are gone. I'm not kicking you out, but I'm sure happy you decided to go live on campus.
and also, I understand. Oh, but I also want to say to those that are listening and watching, it's not this information that Ms. Williams is given is not just for women. Keep in mind, if you're a man listening to this, you can also do this in your marriage as well, and allow your wife to twist her head and say, what happened to him? He's changed. This information is very powerful in so many ways. I want to say this because there may be someone watching this, or you may know someone that is having problems in their relationship, that is experiencing or talking about going through separation or divorce. A lot of times we hold information in, but we're bringing this information to you to help you. I mean, and just don't wait until your marriage or your relationship gets to that point. Take these tools, this knowledge that we're giving you now, and use it. And the more you use it, the more you build on it, and you strengthen your relationship. So this is good.
Yes, absolutely. If you notice how I talk, I just say spouse, because men can learn from all of this as well. Because sometimes it's vice versa. The women are acting what we would say different, and the men say, I love her so much, but she just don't even want to be bothered with me. She don't want to sit down and just watch TV with me. Let me tell you, women, when men are in their zone, in their sports zone, in their man cave, how about instead of saying, can you just come and help me in the kitchen or whatever, how about just go and take time and just sit next to them, grab their hand, and see what change it will be, because now you're taking interest in something that they love. They love you, but they also love just being able to chill with just watching some sports. And for women that say, oh, I'm not into sports, or men that say I'm not into sports, this is a great opportunity to have your spouse teach you something. Like, what was that happened? Oh, that, that's the kicker coming in. He's gonna make 3 points. He got to go through that yellow thing, which is the goal. How about sharing with that?
Mhm. Very
One of the
good.
things that my husband and one of his friends really enjoyed is they were both sitting there and they were talking about we were from California, so we like the Lakers. They were talking about Lakers. Well, everybody from LA loves the Lakers and know everybody, right? They were talking about the Lakers, and I just all of a sudden said, "Oh yeah, he played blah 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 blah." It was like, "Oh, you know sports?" I said, "I know sports. I grew up in a large family. I was a sports person. I didn't play sports, but I went to sports games and I learned all of that because we were a family that watched sports together. So I learned. I didn't realize that was a good thing. I didn't know when you're just sitting there and you're just doing it as a family fun thing, you don't really realize how much that is teaching you for outside relationships,
Mhm.
especially when you meet men that love sports and um, embrace what they like, and then also vice versa, men embrace what she likes. Whatever it is. If it's a cooking show, just go in and show some interest to how about looking at that show and say, oh, honey, did you get the recipe? Let's try to do that together in the kitchen. I'm not much of a cook, but can you just show me? I just want to, if I just need to chop the onions, just let me know. I want to just help. So, and that's in not just stuff like that, but that's just in life in general. In the relationships, we need to, it's a give and it's a take, but it's most importantly, it's a sacrifice. I don't like this, but because you like it, I'm going to try to learn how to like it. I'm going to take time to just spend time with you because I know that this is something you like. I mean, love, relationships, you can tell that's my passion because I would like every marriage, every relationship to thrive.
Mhm.
And I think when we learn the proper healthy tools, because a lot of us don't really know how to be in a relationship yet we want to be in one, right? we
Right.
don't we were never taught.
Mm-mm.
That's not something people tell you that's healthy, that's not healthy. This is someone to stay away from, or not just stay away from, but this is someone to just be cautious about that. Not saying you got to get rid of it, but I want you to be cautious and make your own personal opinion. That was the one thing I loved when I was single, because I had a brother that was 3 years older than me. We both worked evening shifts, so we were home at midnight. So we would come home. Might get home before me, and we would have a little dinner together, and we would laugh and chat and talk about relationships.
Mhm.
And if there was somebody that he thought I knew that went to school with me, he would ask my opinion. What did you know about this person? And vice versa. If he saw that I went out with the guy that came to pick me up and he saw him in the street, he was like, I don't want you to date that guy. I saw him at such and such. And I didn't get mad at my brother. He knew something that I didn't know. And that's what helped me not to have so many dating woes in
Mhm.
the, in my singleness, so that I really learned how to really get to my faith and not settle, and to set boundaries, and to know who I am and who God is to me, and where I want that to fall in line in a real relationship. Because most often those first few relationships don't always turn into to marriage, but they are there to help be instrumental to what you like and don't like. Because when we're young teenagers and when we're young adults, we're just learning what we like, because we're not, our parents can't tell us to come in at midnight anymore. But those were disciplines that taught us to set boundaries with individuals. Like, you don't toot the horn or just pull up and let me come out. That was a no-no in my household. You have to come ring the doorbell. You have to say, hello, ma'am, hello, sir, if you didn't say the last name. And you have to come in and sit for a few minutes so they can see whether you're drunk. I knew this was my parents. They was whether seeing if you was drunk, a little high, or if you even look like you want to go do some of that kind of stuff, right? So it's good to bring people around other people, and especially around family, so that you could see how they gel around people. And it's good to go around their family and friends too, so that they can tell you some stuff, so that you can kind of be on the lookout. Those are the red flags. You'll see more red flags when you go and intermingle with other people. When it's just the two of you, you don't see that. But it's good to be, um, I would say, even when you're first dating, I would say drive and meet the person there. Don't just have people come to your homes. I know social media got all these sites out there. You don't know what you're getting into. And always, always tell someone who you're with.
That's right.
Very true. I want to thank you so much, Miss Williams, for joining us today and giving us a piece of your time. It's been an honor and a pleasure having you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I also had a great time.
We're glad. Thank you.
And to our watchers and our viewers and listeners, we want you to also make sure you follow us on our social media outlets. And please don't forget that hit that like and subscribe button, as we don't want you to miss out on our special guests and great topics. And we want to thank you for tuning in.
And we will also have information for you to reach out and speak to Mrs. Williams and get any information that she has that can enlighten your walk through life and relationships as well. Thank you, everyone.